Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out Malicious Compliance. Story 1. Box of Skulls leads to shock and awe. In my free time I like to draw. One subject of interest is skulls. Usually, I have to search the web for images of skulls, but I know a biologist, so I called them up and asked if I could borrow a cast, not real, skull. They said that they never loan out a skull because they will forget who they loaned it to and it just disappears. Online they go for $300 to $2K. She had the ones that are not cut open above the eyes so you can open into the brain cavity that are obviously for study. They look more real as they were cast from real skulls and thus have some of the character and damage of the originals. I think they are rather sturdy plastic with a little heft. They are all two pieces with a detached mandible. In addition to human skulls, she had other mammals including apes and monkeys that have fangs. Strangely, she said she would be willing to loan out all of the skulls and that way they will not forget who has what. I agreed and grinning I took a huge box of skulls home. My wife saw the box and asked me what was in it. I said, skulls. She said, no really, what is in the box? She did not believe me. I can imagine bringing a big box of Legos a colleague's family was passing on or something like that, and upon being asked saying skulls or some other random improbable item just to be funny because who would ever have expected a box of skulls? I said, skulls. She got mad and said, fine. Don't tell me. Now at this point I have had my fun. She was indeed surprised by my answer and I could have filled in the details of how and why I got the skulls and when I had to return them, but I was told not to tell her so I did that. I complied stubbornly and with perhaps a bit of malice because her extreme reaction surprised me and I freeze up and become defensive when surprised because of my childhood. She grew up with older brothers and they were always teasing her growing up. You can be sure her orange juice had gummy worms in it. She has a short fuse for foolery. On the other hand, I was the oldest with a stern and overly firm stepmother and I learned to do as I was told to the letter lest I face the consequences which go beyond the scope of this post. I put on stubbornness just as she wanted an explanation. She asked again and I said that I had answered the question and besides, I had just been told not to say any more. I think we were both a bit steamed. She didn't get an explanation because I stuck by her command to not say anything. She pondered for a while and I didn't see when she slipped to another part of the house to get closer to the box. When she was near it she pounced on it and opened it up. I didn't even see her. Without context or explanation she got an eyeful of scale-sized skulls. I saw her talking to herself. He said skulls. These are skulls. A box full of skulls. It is kind of a moment of shock. The skulls were not neatly stacked. Just jumbled mandibles and craniums. Of course this was not what I had imagined when I came home with the box of skulls. I rather wanted the enthusiasm and wonder that I had having scored a drawing experience that would be difficult to have in normal circumstances. I was excited. Well, it was botched, but I explained the details after she had found that I had not been sarcastic. We recovered gradually and it all kind of played out again when the kids came home from school. Edit, Part 2. What happened with the kids, by request. They got surprised by the box of skulls too. My daughter scheduled a scary movie night with friends. My son buried a monkey skull, smaller, in veggie sticks, the salty snack ones that look like French fries. My wife was like, oh no you don't. We don't do that here. During the film, Hush, one of the girls pulled out a monkey mandible with fangs. It was dark but a surprise to everyone. Much screaming. Turns out my wife only removed the cranium. The mandible was still in there buried in veggie sticks. No one knew. It turned into a sleepover. Fine. They were up later than me. I had to work so I got up. No shower. No nothing. Just get out of the house. On the way out I noticed they arranged all the skulls in a row perfectly pairing each cranium with its mandible. That is a difficult task. As I get a handful of cereal to munch on the way out the door I'm inspired. I put an ODO in each eye socket. I'm out to work. I heard later they thought no one had been downstairs before them and they were certainly last to bed, so they could not explain the cereal in the eye sockets. It was terrifying. Much screaming. When Halloween came around, one of them dressed as an ODO. Story 2. Guy wants to fight me, I guess. This was a long time ago, pre-internet in fact. I, 17M, was working a dishwashing job in the 80s. A newish dishwasher challenged me to a fight. I didn't want to fight. I really liked my job. The pay was $3.40 an hour. I was also fed a big meal at work. This was a ballroom kind of place that did weddings, dinners, and Sunday brunch, and I know it sounds oxymoronic, but dare I say high-end buffet? I loved it. Food at home was locked up in a closet and I never got enough to eat, so work was heaven. Back in the day, pre-internet, there were lots of fights if you were a male. In my experience, you could get in a fight even if you were avoiding conflict. It just happened a bunch, or I was just lucky. Maybe it was because I was dressed out of fashion and my stepmother would take all my money and get me those plastic blue jeans called Tough Skins. They would melt if you lit them on fire, don't ask how I know. You would wear out your knee before you wore a hole in them. I had the dorkiest glasses too. I was branded an outcast. Get off the bus, and 15 people get off at your stop. A circle forms and you have to fight someone. I lost all my fights. It sucked. I cried. Just a part of life. If I had magic powers, I would make bullying go away, but back in the day no one cared. It was not physical build that cost me the fights. I think it was confidence and my conflict avoidance. At home I was the older brother, so in all those home fights I tried to fight at 80% because I didn't want to hurt my kid brother while he would try to clobber me. I had too much empathy. Also, at home, my stepmother had this 10-foot-long cliff that was 10 feet tall in the backyard that had a septic field behind it that no truck could drive on. Thus I spent my days with a shovel and a wheelbarrow moving dirt even in the rain to turn this cliff into a gentle slope for my stepmother's epic dream flower bed. I had the arms and upper body strength despite not being on a sports team. This comes into the story. I told the new dishwasher I didn't want to fight. He therefore called me names and said I was afraid and so on. I ignored him. This continued for a month. It was the theme of busy Friday nights and also Sunday mornings. He always wanted to talk about how I was afraid to fight him and how I was so weak and so on. He called me those classic 1980s derogatory terms that are now out of vogue. This eventually got old, so one Sunday morning when he challenged me yet again I said, "Let's fight then." He was surprised I said yes to a fight. We went outside to the parking lot and it had just rained. He asked again if I wanted to fight. I said I really did. I have heard all about how I can't fight and I'm afraid for like a month, so now I want to fight and end it already. He said he was just joking and he didn't really want to fight. I told him he wanted a fight and I was going to give him exactly what he wanted and had waited so long for. Now I didn't really want to hurt him. As rude as he had been, I saw him as sort of like my little brother. Annoying, sure, but not someone I want to injure. We work together after all and it is at a place I like to work, and yet I did want to let him know not to try this crap again. He looked truly frightened. I grabbed his squishy body and put him on a wet car hood and dried the car off from the rain. I used him like a chamois or one of those big car wash sponges. These were not nice cars. They were owned by dishwashers and cooks making $3 to $7 an hour. Even so, I don't think I scraped any of them, or if I did, you couldn't tell. I buffed each car with this dishwasher one after another. He was wiggly, but the friction was low, so honestly it wasn't all that much of a workout. He yelped a bit and seemed genuinely afraid. In the end he was absolutely soaked. I was too, if only by proximity. He did me the favor of telling everyone about what had happened and the general consensus was that it was funny, so I didn't face work consequences. After that I got to wash dishes in peace. Story 3. 1 spoonful. My kid asked for large chocolate chip cookies for their birthday tomorrow. It is the only thing they have requested, shrugging when asked about gifts, cake, party, meal, etc. So I'm making the cookies and ask for guidance on how big a large cookie should be. They are super excited about eating cookie dough. I let them have a taste. Followed by, can I have a spoonful of cookie dough for my birthday? Me being naive, sure. Runs to the silverware and brings back the largest serving spoon we own. Looks me dead in the eye. You said 1 spoonful. Me, yes I did, and you are winning at life. Story 4. I don't know if this counts. Long time lurker, first time poster. Around 6 months ago my job started giving me Thursdays off because Thursday is our slowest day of the week. So I started doing what little Thursday work I'd have on Wednesdays, and other than the lower paycheck, everything was good. To make a long story short, I asked my boss for a raise 2 months ago. He screamed at me, so I began looking for a new job, mostly to make more money, which he has always been aware of. In fact, his wife, they co-own the company, threw a 3-week-long hissy fit because I was considering leaving. 2 weeks ago I told him I had a job offer, but was taking a week to think about it. He never once either made me an offer to stay or even ask what it would take for me to stay, so I took the job offer and put in my 3-week notice. Job starts June 12th. So yesterday, just before 5 o'clock, he calls and tells me that he wants me to work Thursdays each of the next 3 weeks until I leave. So his punishment for me leaving for more hours and money is for him to give me more hours and money. That brings us to today. Since I did all my Thursday work yesterday, I now have literally nothing to do, so I am complying with his demand that I work by sitting in my office and reading a book I haven't had a chance to and getting paid to do so. Story 5. Boss told me to gain some perspective, so I did and found a new job. I worked as a systems administrator for an IT firm. I got tired of dealing with abusive and angry clients for 5 years. I got tired of being micromanaged and being exploited. I got tired of being talked down to like I was a child anytime the slightest little mistake was made. When my boss learned I was no longer going to work in another market 3 days a week like I originally planned, and he had no one else, because no one wanted to deal with the jerks in that market, he spent an hour lecturing me on taking a long hard look at myself. He said that he was concerned about my reliability after refusing to spend 3 hours a day commuting to the other market on top of my work day. If I can't rely on you to work in the other market, then I just don't know if you have much of a future with this company. I think you need to take a long hard look at yourself and gain some perspective. You know what? You are absolutely right. 2 weeks later, I found a new job and gave my notice. He begged me to stay, offered me more money, etc. This went on for days. I said no thanks. I finally found that perspective you wanted me to find. Boy, am I glad I did. A new job with a raise and benefits, and no stress. The only advice you've ever given me of value. Good luck to you. He let me go a week into my notice. Started the new job, love my new boss and my co-workers. It's been over a year later. The former boss hired 6 different people to fill my spot, each lasted 1 to 2 months before they left. Wonder why that is. Maybe he needs to gain some perspective on how to run a company and treat people? That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.